You can draw this in Procreate. You can draw this cozy desk illustration in Procreate just by following this super easy tutorial. You don't need any experience with drawing or with Procreate because I will be guiding you through every single step. You will learn how to use the perspective grid. We will create a sketch, then we'll create our line art, then we'll add the base colors, and finally we will add shadow and those final touches. I'm sure you will feel super proud and happy once you have reached the end of this Procreate tutorial. So go ahead and share your work. If you're sharing it on Instagram, then do be sure to tag me in the image, not just in the description, so I will be able to find your work, and then maybe we will see it in the next video. Just like these amazing results from my very special friends at Patreon. That's the place where you can find even more Procreate tutorials, ranging from beginner levels to more advanced levels. For this tutorial, we will be using free brushes only and a color palette, which I have linked in the description. The canvas we'll be working on is 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels. And now, if you're ready, let's get started. We'll start off by creating a perspective grid. But don't worry if you don't feel comfortable creating a perspective grid, then you can just grab my ready to go canvas from the link in the description. That way you will have the exact same perspective grid as I'll be using during this tutorial. And to create a perspective grid, you need to go to the wrench, then to canvas, then turn on drawing guide, and then tap edit drawing guide. And then here at the bottom, you will find perspective. That's what we need, so tap it. And now we are going to zoom all the way out to make our canvas nice and small because our vanishing points will be outside of our canvas. And you can just tap on your screen to create a vanishing point. And then you can drag this around. And we want it to be outside of our canvas and a little bit higher. Maybe we can zoom out even more. Drag it in this direction, and now we can tap on our screen again like this, and then we will have another vanishing point and pull that outward to about here. So you will have two vanishing points, and this one will be a little bit further away, will be a little bit more stretched. And right here at the bottom, you will see the opacity of your lines and the thickness. I'll turn that all the way up, but still, it's actually pretty hard to see these lines, but if you have something like this, you should be fine, and then you can tap done. Like I said, if you don't feel comfortable using your own grid, then you can just use this grid that I have linked for you in the description. Now that you have your grid, it's time to start creating a sketch. I always start an illustration like this with a loose sketch to decide where I want my elements. So let's start on this layer, on layer 1, and let's turn on drawing assist. If you tap your layer and turn on drawing assist, all the lines on your layer will follow the perspective grid. And then for our brush, I would like to use the 6B pencil under sketching, but you can use any sketching brush you like. And for the color, well, it doesn't really matter what color you use at this stage, since we will just be creating a sketch. Now, I like to use a very dark gray. Now, the opacity of this brush is set to 100%, and I have the size set to 50%. Now let's start sketching. Now I will start about here and make a line going down to about here. That will be our left line for our window. Then I'll make a line like this towards that pink little line. And then I'll go back up towards that same line that you see here, that bluish line. It'll touch here. And now let's make another line on the inside like this. So we'll make another rectangular shape. And then at the center, I would like to make a line like this. So upward. And then we'll make like a cross section. Like this. And then another line on top. And to make this window, or part of this window, we have cut off the top part. To make this look 3D, we need to add some extra lines. And let's also remove some lines. So let's grab the eraser. You can tap and hold it to make it switch to the 6B pencil as well. And then we can just erase this part. And right now the eraser is also following our perspective grid. If you don't want it to follow the grid, then you just need to turn off drawing assist on your layer. So let's just erase this, then go back to the brush. Oh, I forgot one. Over here we have another line. Then go back to the brush and then make a little line over here. Then from this line, move upward. Let's go through here. And we'll also go in this direction. And then we'll make a line from this corner to that line. Then over here, we'll go up as well. And then over here, again, from this corner, we'll touch that line. And we'll go in this direction. And over here, we'll do the same from this corner to that line, and then in this direction. And you see how you've created this 3D look. Let's use the eraser to get rid of some lines. And let's also turn off drawing assist for now. Let's go to the layer, tap it, turn off drawing assist, grab the eraser, and over here we can erase this line, and here in this little corner. Over here we can erase this, and this, and over here we can erase this little part in the corner and this. Let's check it. Now we have a nice 3D looking window, or at least part of a window. Now let's go back to the layer, tap it, turn drawing assist back on, go to the brush, and now let's create our desk. To create the desk, we'll extend this line to about here. Then we'll move in this direction until we are about above this intersection. Then we'll go in this direction till we are about here. And go back to the window. Then we'll give some volume to our desk by making a line going down here. Then we'll move in this direction, make a line here, and then in this direction, and make a line like this. Then over here, we'll make a little cabinet on the wall. We'll start a little bit above this pink line over here. We'll go all the way down to here. Then in this direction, then we'll go back up to a little bit above the pink line and then close our shape. Then we'll move in this direction just a little bit. Then we'll go up, connect these two lines, then go in this direction and attach these two. So now we have created a block in perspective. Now we'll make another line on the inside to give it some volume. So just go around, and I'll make a shelf over here by creating a line like this and another one underneath. And you can make a little line in this direction and over here. You can make a line from this corner down here, then in this direction, follow this one, and over here. And now we have given it some depth. You can use the eraser to get rid of this little line here and over here, this one, tidy it up a little bit. And now we have our major blocks, our major elements for our scene. Let's create another layer on top of this one. So go to the layer menu, tap the plus, and on this layer, we are going to sketch out all the other elements. And we won't be needing drawing assist, so you can leave the layer like this. And what we could also do is lower the opacity of our other sketch a little bit. We can tap the N here, slide to the left to, let's say, 70%. So we will be able to see our new sketch a bit better. So let's continue. For instance, I want a laptop on our desk. Let's make a diagonal line. Let's first grab our brush instead of the eraser. That's pretty handy. Let's make a line like this. Diagonal line. Then we'll go downward and over here as well. So we'll make a bit like a rectangular shape like this. And then another rectangular shape attached. And you can see that I'm working very roughly. You don't have to make this tidy. We just want to figure out where our elements will be. And make another line on the inside for the screen of our tablet, of our laptop. And a rectangular shape over here. And a little one over here for that like tracking pad. Then over here, I would like to add a little mug. So that's a bit shaped like this with an oval on top. So oval shape, rounded shape underneath, and a little ear. And maybe over here, there's a little notepad with some rings. Of course, our desk also needs these legs. Just make one over here and one over here, diagonal lines. Maybe a little bit longer. And I want a little stool over here. That's also an oval shape with some volume. So a diagonal line on each side, and then another curved line underneath. And then these legs. Then let's also add a plant. I want a pretty big plant over here. Let's first make a little oval or rounded shape. And then a pot underneath. So that's shaped like this, rounded shape at the bottom, oval shape at the top, and a little extra edge here. And then for this plant, I want to give it leaves like this. And we can work it out in more detail when we create our line art. You just want a rough idea of the shape. And then later we can make it more tidy. Let's also add a little plant over here. Plants always make it look so much more cozy, a workspace. Again, oval at the top, little edge underneath. And this time we can make these pointy leaves. Another leaf over here. Again, you can keep it a bit messy. You can make it more tidy when you create your line art. Let's also add a plant over here. This is a rounded pot, rounded underside. Again, an oval at the top. And this one has different leaves, like these rounded leaves. And if you want to have my line art as a reference as you work, you can download it through the link along with the color palette in case you want to keep it next to your work to make it easier to follow this, to use it as a reference. Now let's just add another plant over here, one that's hanging. It has this long rounded pot like this. It has these wires. It's hanging here. And I think it has a lot of these small leaves and branches hanging. So a lot of small leaves at the top and some hanging here. Then over here from the side of that cabinet to about here, I also want some lights hanging. So they will be a bit like this, little rectangular shape and then a bulb. Over here as well. And then one over here. And then for our little cabinet, we need some books. So let's just start with the front like this with a little rounded shape. Over here as well, start with the front. And there's one that is a little bit diagonal. So it's like a long rectangular shape with a little curved edge. And then make lines towards the back of the bookcase of the little shelf. And then here as well, start with the front of the books. There's one falling in this direction. And then those lines towards the back, these diagonal lines. Over here we need a little downward line. There, let's make a little sticky note here. And maybe there's a calendar hanging here, but perhaps you have other ideas of stuff that you want to add to your cozy little desk. Let your imagination run wild. Just some lines here. I think we have enough here. Now that we have our rough sketch, it's time to create our line art. And to create our line art, let's first start with creating line art for our first sketch that we made. So that's this one. Let's first create the lines for that. Let's lower the opacity a bit more. And then let's make a layer on top by tapping the plus. Then for our color, we are going to use this one over here, first color in the first row. And for the brush, I would like to use the fine liner brush, which you can find in my free treasure chest brush pack. If you don't already have it, then be sure to go to freefromflow.com to get it for free, along with my ebook about color theory. So we'll use the fine liner brush. I have it set to 100% opacity and the size is at 6%. I do want to make sure that you set this layer to drawing assist to make it easier to follow these lines. So tap the layer, turn on drawing assist, and then with this brush, follow all the lines to create your line art. Now that we have these lines, let's move on to the next sketch. Let's turn the bottom one off. And as you can see, I didn't follow all these lines since the books will be covering those. And now let's turn on the next sketch and let's lower the opacity. Let's tap the N, slide to the left. Let's set it to around 30%. And let's make a new layer on top of this line art layer. Let's tap the plus. And there we will create the lines for all the other elements, except for the light bulbs. We will use a different color for that. So follow all of the lines of your sketch to create a tidy looking line art. And like I said, you can download my line art to use that as a reference. So let's follow these lines until you have this. And please don't worry, for this style, it's actually nice if your lines are a little bit wonky. So there's really no need for perfectionism here. Now we do see some lines that are going through some of our objects. Like here, we see the window through our laptop. So let's go to this layer where we have those elements. Let's turn off drawing assist. So tap the layer, turn off drawing assist, and let's grab our eraser to get rid of those lines. So you might need to zoom in a little bit. You can either use the eraser, but you could also use the selection tool, for instance, the S shear ribbon. Set it to freehand without color fill turned on. So this shouldn't be blue. And then with the selection tool, you can select the areas where you don't want those lines. And you can make multiple selections, closing it each time. You know, like over here and here. And for this leaf. And then once you have made that selection, you can either swipe with 3 fingers or go to the layer, tap it, and then use clear. Now it's not entirely tidy. We can go back to the eraser and get rid of this, for instance. But it can be a nice quick way to get rid of those lines. For instance, over here, we can grab the S shape ribbon again, and then we can simply make a selection of our laptop by tapping like this, and then swipe with 3 fingers to get rid of those lines. Over here, we have some lines as well. Let's use the eraser to get rid of these. Over here a little bit, and of course here through our pod. You know what? We can actually turn off our sketch layer to make it more clear. Let's turn that off, layer 2 here. And let's continue working on those lines, getting rid of them. We have one over here. And some on our shelves. And over here. I actually think we have them all. So now let's create our light bulbs. Let's turn our sketch back on, layer 2, and let's make a layer on top of this one. So in between layer 3 and layer 4. So have layer 3 selected, then tap the plus. Then for our color, we'll grab this one over here, 4th color in the 3rd row. And then let's draw our light bulbs. Let's just make a shape like this. And a little zigzag here, like a little M shape. And again, these shapes don't have to be perfect. It's nice if it's a little bit wonky. It gives a nice playful look. Little M shape. There, now let's add some extra lines to our line art. Let's go back to layer 4. Let's switch back to that 1st color in the 1st row. Let's also turn off our sketch layer. You could also erase them, remove them at this part. And now let's add some extra touches, like some lines here on our desk to give that suggestion of wood, and also add some nice interest to our line art. Some over here, a few lines here following like that round form of these legs. And over here, let's just add a few thingies, like scratchy lines here as well on the outside. A little bit, and some lines on the wood of the window. These are pretty thin, so I'm using less pressure when I'm creating these lines. Over here, we'll add some short strokes following that curve of this pod. We can add a few lines to our laptop, maybe here on the keypad. And on our mug. And let's add some scratches on this little notepad and also on this cabinet. I'm following the direction of the perspective grid here. And then also some like scratchy lines on these books. So these are pretty much some like random lines. Let's also add some lines here for our leaves. Just going along all these leaves, adding a little line in the center. And perhaps also some little wiggly lines on the outside. Maybe some here. Yeah, I think this looks nice. Now that we have this, it's time to start adding the color to our work. And at this point, we can actually turn off our perspective grid. We can just go to the wrench, then to canvas, and turn off the drawing guide, and then tap the wrench again. Now for our colors, we are going to create a new layer, and we will do that underneath our Lineart layer. So first tap this layer where our rough sketch is, which is turned off, then tap the plus for our first color layer. For the color, let's grab this one over here, second color in the first row. We are going to use it for our desk. And to color the desk, I want to use a brush from the calligraphy set, the script brush. But you could also use the monoline brush or any brush you would like to use for coloring objects. I'll use the script brush. I have the opacity set to 100% and the size is set to 8%. And now I'll just make an outline along the object, along our desk. But you can also actually do this with the selection tool. For instance, you can use any coloring option that you like. And you don't have to worry about the plant here or anything that is on the desk. Just follow the edges. And we'll do that until you have a closed shape. So we'll go along here. Like this. When it's closed, you can drag in the color. Then for the legs, I want to color it a bit like this. Have a little bit of a rounded shape here at the bottom. And color it in. And on this side as well. And for the style, I don't mind it if sometimes the colors go outside of the edges a little bit to also add to that like playful look. Now let's also do this for that little stool. Let's use the third color in the first row for that. Let's color it in. Let's also color this cabinet. Let's use this color for that. That's the 8th color in the first row. And let's color it in. And I'm trying to find elements here that aren't overlapping. So for instance, we can also color this pot. Let's use this color for that. That's the 6th color in the first row. Let's go in there, follow that shape, and then make a closed shape, or just color it in by hand, and then drag in the color. And we can also color this pot on this layer. For the pot, I would like to use this color. That's the 6th color in the second row. And over here, we don't need to worry about those leaves because we will color those on a layer that will be on top of this one. So we can just make a shape like this and drag in the color. I also want to start coloring our window, but let's do that on a layer underneath this one. So first let's tap this layer, then tap the plus. And for the window, I would like to use this color over here. That's the 5th color in the first row. But it's pretty close to white. So if I will start drawing here, you won't be able to see it properly. So let's just change the background color for a minute. Let's tap background color here in the layer menu. And let's just give it a color like this. That's totally fine. Doesn't really matter, just a darker color so that we can see what we're doing here. So we can just follow the shape. Or what you could also do is grab the selection tool, set it to freehand with color fill turned on, and then you can just make a selection and tapping like this. along all the corners, all the way to about here. And then close it. Now you do see that we have a light part here that we don't need. So let's tap remove here and then make a selection where we don't want the color to be. To remove that from the selection, tap in the corners, close the selection, and then once you have this, you can tap the S-shape ribbon to get out of here. Now I want that top here, I want that to fade as we move up. So the way to do that is by going to the layer, and now you could either use an eraser set to a soft brush, or we can use a layer mask. We can tap this layer, give it a mask, and now by using this layer mask here, by painting on it with black, we can cover or mask parts of this layer with that window. So let's go and grab a soft brush under airbrushing. We have it set to black, and then we can go over this top area to make it fade. And the opacity of my brush is at 60%. Let's make it a little bit smaller, maybe 6%. And let's go over here to fade that top area. Make multiple strokes until it's nicely faded like this. And now we can set our background color back to white. So let's go to background color and then double tap over here to set it back to white. Now let's continue and color all the other elements. Let's first tap layer 6 here, then tap the plus for a new layer. Let's grab our script brush again under calligraphy. And let's first grab this color, third color in the second row to color our laptop. Then let's grab this color over here, second color in the second row for our little mug here. And then we can simply color it in by hand. Follow the outer edges. Drag in the color, make sure you don't have any little gaps. Then let's color those pots. Let's use this color for that. That's the 7th color in the first row. Now let's color this pot. Drag in the color. And this pot as well. Now let's also use this color for this book here. Then let's switch to this color, 6th color in the first row, to color this book over here. Now let's switch to this color, 2nd color in the second row, and I'll choose that for this book. To make it easier to shade these later, I'm not going to color any books that are right next to each other. So I'll color this book on another layer. Now we can also color this book. Let's use this color for that, 3rd color in the first row. Just color it in by hand. Then for this stuff on the side, for this one, I would like to use this color over here, 1st color in the second row for our little post-it. And for this, I would like to use this color over here, the 3rd color in the second row. Let's first make that outline. And then drag in the color. And one more element that we can color on this layer is this little notebook. Let's use this color for that. That's the 4th color in the first row. And drag in the color. Then let's add another layer. Let's tap the plus in the layer menu and let's grab this color over here. I would like to use it for the soil for our plants. That's the 7th color in the 2nd row. And let's go over here. And you don't have to be super tidy because we are going to color the leaves on a different layer. There we have this one. And then let's also use it for our screen here. Let's use this color over here, 4th color in the 2nd row. Let's color the screen. And now let's also color the other books. For this one, I would like to use the same color as this one. We can simply tap and hold our finger here to grab it. And then we can color this book. Drag in the color. For this one, I would like to use this purple here, so we can tap and hold, grab that. Make a little purple book. You can barely see it, but it's a different color than the shelf. Now for this one, I would like to use this color. Color it in. Just like this. Oh, and we can also color this little tapey tape. Color that in. And then finally, we need a layer for our leaves and for the buttons here. Let's tap the plus in the layer menu to create a new layer. Then let's grab this color over here, 5th color in the 2nd row. And let's color this area. Just like this. Drag in the color. And then for the plants, first let's grab this one, 9th color in the 2nd row. I would like to use that for these leaves. Let's color them in. And then for this plant, let's use this color over here. That's the 8th color in the 2nd row. Let's follow the outlines again. Now for the color palette for this piece, I try to keep the colors pretty close together. And that's what makes the color scheme look pleasing. Now if you look at the colors, let's go for classic here. If you look at all these colors, if you tap through them, you will see that they are all pretty much in this area. They are not super saturated. They are all pretty muted. And that's why they will feel more harmonious. And it will look pretty off if I would start using some other colors here, which are very saturated. So when you are creating your own color schemes, try to keep this in mind. And for our next plant, I would like to use this color over here, 10th color in the 2nd row. Again, you'll see that it's not very saturated. It's pretty muted, but still it will feel like green. So let's fill these shapes for our little plant. Just follow the outer edges. Just like this, and then drag in the color. Here we have a little edge. Make sure it's entirely filled, and then let's move on to this one. For that one, I would like to use this color over here, 2nd color in the 2nd row. So let's fill all these little leaves. And then finally, there's still more we need to color. We need some color on the outside of our window. Let's go and create a layer underneath this one. So first tap layer 2 here, and tap the plus And then for our color, we'll grab this one over here. That's the first color in the third row. And then let's just draw a shape like this. Loop around behind it to close it, and then drag in the color. Then to add some special effect here, we are going to add a layer mask again. So tap this layer and tap mask. Then for our brush, we will go to the vintage brushes and use the rad brush. The opacity of this brush is at 100% and the size is at 40. And let's go over the top area here to get this nice effect. Now let's also go to the artistic brushes, go over here and use the hearts brush. And for this one, I also have the opacity set to 100% and the size is at 17%. And let's use that over the edge as well for a nice fade. Now what we just need is to color our light bulbs. Let's go to layer 3 here and tap the plus for a new layer. And then for our brush, we will go back to our script brush. And for the color, we will use this one over here, third color in the third row. And let's color in our light bulbs. Pretty simple shapes here. Color them in one by one. And finally this one. And then we have all our flat colors. Now let's start making our illustration look more interesting by adding some shadow and more detail. We are going to do that by using layers set to multiply layer blending mode. Let's go to our layer menu and let's start with this layer where we have our desk and our stool and stuff. And let's add a new layer to it. Let's tap the plus and I will tap this new layer and set it to clipping mask so that whatever we paint on this layer, it'll only show up on these objects. And then we will change the layer blending mode. We'll tap the N and I will scroll up to multiply. And now even when we use this desk color and paint on the desk, the color will be multiplied. It will be darker. So if we multiply this color with the same color, it'll turn out to look like a darker color. Let's just do this. Let me demonstrate. First, let's grab a different brush. We'll go to the painting brushes and use the round brush. We will set the opacity to 100% and we will set the size to 15%. And now let's just grab the local color for this desk. Let's just tap and hold to grab that color. And then when you go over it like this, it'll look darker. And we will add that shadow to the side like this to make that side look darker, but we'll also do that over here next to the pot. And you can make it a little bit painterly. It doesn't have to be super tidy. A little bit underneath here and underneath that mug. And here. And let's go even darker here by grabbing that line art color, that dark brown. And let's gently go over the side to make that even darker. But I'm not doing it super tidy. I want it to be a bit like blotchy, painterly. We can go over here again, make that a little bit darker. And then let's also try and add some wood-like texture. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's set it to 3%. And let's add some lines following the direction, following the perspective. And let's also grab the local color again. For some lighter lines. You don't need a whole lot, just a few to add a little bit of texture. Now let's move on to this tool. Let's grab the local color. Let's set the size back to 15%. And let's go over the side here. Let's darken that a bit. A little bit here at the top for some nice variety. Now for this pot, again, we can grab the local color and add a bit of shadow to the side here. We also have this pot over here. Let's grab this color and go over the side like this. Then for this cabinet, let's grab the color again, add some shadow to the side, and also on the inside. Try to do that a little bit more tidy, like in the back here, and here on the side. But still, it's okay if it's a little bit blotchy. A little bit here at the top, using less pressure to make it less dark. So now we have some nice painterly shadow there. Let's do the same for the next layer, layer 9 here. Let's tap the plus for a new layer. Tap that new layer, set it to clipping mask, then tap the N and scroll up to multiply. So here we have some more elements like this pot. Let's grab the local color, go along the side for this one as well. Then we also have this mug. Let's add some shadow there as well. And we have the laptop. Grab the local color, add a little bit to the side here, a little bit in this crease. Then for the notebook, notepad, just some blotches. And then we have those books. Let's start with this one. Grab the local color, add a little bit of shadow to the side. Then this one, just a little bit. Then we have this pink one. And you can see now that it's handy that we didn't put these on the same layer, because then we will be also going over that purple book. This one. There. What else do we have? We have this little post-it. Just a little bit of shadow for this one as well. Grab that local color and add some variation. Then on to the next one. Let's go to layer 10. Let's tap the plus to make a new layer on top. Set that new layer to clipping mask and tap the N and scroll up to multiply. Over here we have this screen, for instance. Grab that local color and let's make a shape like this on the screen. We also have the soil, so let's grab that local color, add a little bit of shadow underneath the plants. And we have the other books. So this one over here, add some shadow there. We have the purple one here. So each time just tap your finger on the screen, hold it to grab that local color, and then add that little shadow. Then on to the next one. We have layer 11 with the plants and this part of our laptop. Let's tap the plus, set that new layer to clipping mask. By the way, once you're happy with the multiply layers, of course you can pinch them together to merge them to save some layer space. Now let's tap the N here, set this to multiply, and let's add some color variation to the plants and this area here. Let's tap and hold, add a little bit of shadow, and then for the plants, again, tap and hold to grab that local color, and then just add some blotches to add some variety here as well. Just some little blotches for some variety. And for this one, and finally these plants, let's grab that color and just with a few blotches add that variety. I also want to add some variety to that outside view. Let's go to this layer over here, and I'm just going to paint on top of this and grab a different color. This one over here, second color in the third row. It's slightly darker. So let's just go over here and add some cloud-like shapes, a little bit rounded. So just a few random shapes. And now let's grab the white here and gently go over here to also add some lighter shapes. Pretty random, just cloudy mood here. Then for some highlights, let's move all the way to the top but we can actually stay underneath our light bulbs. Let's go over here and tap the plus, and then we'll tap the N here and set this layer to screen, which is great to add highlights. It's a bit like multiply, but this time it'll make everything lighter. And for the color, we will grab this one over here, 5th color in the first row. And then we'll make our brush a little bit smaller, set it to 3%. And let's just go over some areas like here and on that mug for just a few little highlights. And on this pot, and on this one as well. Really just a few, maybe some on these books. Using very little pressure. Maybe a little bit on some of these leaves. And over here as well. And then I also want to add a few sparkles. Let's go to the luminance brushes to do that. The luminance brushes, then grab the light pen, stick with this color. The opacity is set to 100% and the size is at 38. And for instance, let's add some sparkles here outside of the window. This magical little touch. And the harder you press, the thicker or the bigger your little sparkle will become. So try to vary that a little bit. Let's also add some to our screen. So vary the pressure to vary your sparkles until you have something like this. Now all we need to do is turn on the lights. Let's go to this layer over here, which has the color for our light bulbs. Then we'll go to the magic wand and then pick bloom. And slide your pen or your finger to the right on the screen to turn the lights on. Now you can play around with the settings with the size of that bloom. If you zoom in, you can see that glow around it. You can play around with the burn. I'll stick with around 33%. I think the glow looks nice like this. The size is at 31. The bloom is at 42. And now we have turned on the lights. Now you can just tap the magic wand to get out of there. And there you have created a cozy looking desk. Now go ahead, turn this into a streak. Maybe you would like to learn more about the perspective grid by following this tutorial in which we create a lo-fi room. I would like to thank you for watching, and I will see you next time for the next tutorial.